Welcome Joe Greipp, Arborist of the Year, with our virtual tree walk, Buds and Blooms.
Hi everyone, I'm Joe Greipp. I'm the director of the Arboretum at Meadow Lakes. It's a beautiful day out and I wanted to show you some of the blooms that we have and some of the buds on trees that are about to bloom. So first we're going to take a look at a Yoshino cherry. They're covered with these beautiful blooms. They're a whitish pink color. The bees are flying around. They seem to be enjoying them. It's not a very fragrant tree, but the blossom and floral display is really impressive this time of the year. Usually cherries bloom for about 2 weeks in the spring and then don't do too much else, although they do have really attractive bark. These two cherry trees are the same. Again, they're Yoshino cherries, Prunus iodensis. And they're just covered in these beautiful blooms. So I'd encourage you to get out and take a look, take a walk around. They're blooming right now. It's April 8th. We'll probably have another week or so to go on this one. But before we go on, I'll just point out some interesting striations on the bark. These horizontal marks we believe are for gas exchange. It's somewhat unique to cherries. They're called lenticels, and they're always in these horizontal patterns. Again, something kind of unique to cherries. It gives them some more, some interest year-round. We'll take a look at another tree next. Okay, so another tree that I thought might be interesting to look at this time of year, again it's April 8th now, is this sawtooth oak. We often think of oaks as having their leaves, holding their leaves through the winter. That's often not the case. A lot of times the more common pin oaks, we'll see them hold their leaves for a long time, but they'll slowly lose them through the winter. And by February or March, most will be gone. Other trees have this characteristic where they hold them almost until the new buds start to expand. That characteristic is called marcescence. So this tree is marcescent. It's holding its leaves, and it's actually a little nicer to deal with because if the trees are constantly dropping their leaves all through the winter, it makes a mess around your front door. We're typically not out cleaning and blowing leaves in January and February. But if a tree holds onto them until you start cutting the grass again, well, that makes for an easier cleanup. So sawtooth oak is distinguished by these little bristle tips on the margin of the leaf. And as the breeze is blowing behind me, I hope you can hear the rustling of the leaves. It's an interesting added benefit of this tree. The leaves are almost papery. You hear them rustle through the winter. It can be very nice. Some people don't like this look at all. So either you like it or you don't. Hopefully at least you can just appreciate that this is something a little different in nature. One other thing I'll point out to you is the caps from the acorns are also very interesting. They have these kind of wild little projections off of them that are pretty unique. So this is the cap. The acorn would have extended down about this far on it. So it is a native but somewhat rare tree. The leaves are somewhat like willow oak, only a little bit bigger, and again, bristle-tipped. This is sawtooth oak, Quercus acutissima. Okay, so here we are on the side of the guest house. This is the back of what would have been the garage or carriage house, I suppose, of the guest house. We've got 3 crab apples that have been espaliered on against the wall. That's a special pruning technique that isn't often used anymore. It requires constant attention. It's really labor intensive, but you do it to keep something trained up against the wall or a flat surface. I wanted to point this out though for a couple of reasons. First of all, crab apples are really tough trees. It's one tree that you can really do this to without really harming it too much, or at least they're very tolerant of it. The second thing is, since we're talking about buds and blooms, I wanted to point out how the difference between the buds that are opening and the open flowers. So I always thought this was interesting. The buds are, as they're opening, are much darker. You're seeing the back side of the petals, and as they're opening, they're a much darker, kind of rosy color. And then they open up to this beautiful light pink color that I think is very attractive. So you might just walk by them and not really notice them, but pay sometimes to take a look and see these buds opening and see how they mature over a matter of just several days even. That's it. All right, so here's another tree, beautiful flowering tree. This is one of the magnolias. Magnolias have been hybridized to the nth degree. There are probably over 1,000 different hybrids that have been created just for different floral displays. This one is called Magnolia Daybreak, and its parents actually are different hybrids too, so the lineage is a little complex. It's got a nice, attractive steel gray bark. It's very smooth. This is a low-branched tree, so we're looking for those nice trunks coming up as part of its architecture. The blooms are anywhere from 8 to 10 inches across. They start with these petals that are like a deep pink or light purple color, and they open to this beautiful light pink flower on the inside. This particular tree has been experiencing a microclimate that's very different from another that we'll show you toward the end here. They're two exactly the same trees, so genetically exactly the same plant material. But this one has a microclimate where it's protected not only by about a 5-foot overhang on the roof, it's also experiencing a lot of reflected light and heat from the building. So this one always opens a little earlier. So even though it's genetically exactly the same plant, this one starts a little earlier just because it's a little warmer, doesn't experience quite the cold weather that the other one does, where it's exposed to a little bit more winter wind. So we'll take a walk over and show you where the other one is, just so you can keep an eye out for it. Just to the west of Building 16, parking lot 4B. This is the other one. It's just a little slower, a little further behind. So again, genetically exactly the same plant. This one just happens to be a little further along. This one will be delayed by about a week to a week and a half.